Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Tina from Tinaheals.com, and although today is not the day of Mars, it is the day of Moon. Tuesday is the day of Mars, but I still attempted to do Mars in Gemini, this video for you, because I wanted to approach Mars through an intuitive lens. A lot has been said about the red planet, the planet of action, the lesser malefic, that it is not such a multi-layered planet. But believe me, my experiences and my study of it displays otherwise. So I wanted to tune in or channel in that intuitive eye to look at Mars, which is why I am doing this video. And Mars does rule Gemini by decan, and the degrees of Gemini it rules is 11 to 20. So decan 2 of Gemini is ruled by Mars. So if you have any planets, say from 11 to 22, then they are of a Martian nature. So what is a Martian nature? Mars is a nocturnal planet, okay, and it is known as the lesser malefic, and Saturn is the greater malefic. So Mars is definitely a planet that brings about agitation. It is fire, and it creates through separation. As Venus creates through union, it is an energy of exclusion, because when you throw something in fire, what happens? Fire changes the very essence of that particular thing, and it becomes something else. So Mars is about separation, which is why it is oftentimes related to divorce. So having a Mars which is afflicted, or has here Saturn conjunct it, or says in the 12th house, it is a debilitated and a difficult Mars to work with. Although Mars in Gemini is a very powerful energy, because tons of strategists, military strategists, and as well as doctors have this placement. Mars rules iron, of course, and people who work with iron, and oftentimes in Gemini, and soldiers, the military junta is ruled by Mars. And Gemini is about strategy. It is about discovering two sides to the story, so you can stand on a platform which is not biased about either of this. But Gemini is mutable air. So air scatters, and air energy in Gemini scatters the most of all the signs. So Mars here can be distracted. The energy of Mars, or the impulse to do things, can be almost bipolar, wanting to do it 1 minute and not wanting to do it the next. Mars is connected to the 5th Sephiroth, which is Gevura, and Gevura is 5 in itself is a very dualistic number. The Pythagoreans called it the nemesis. So Mars, being a malefic in Gemini, can create difficulties with the way we learn, because Gemini is how we learn. Maybe not higher education, that is the polarity of Sagittarius, but how we learn to work with our hands. And Gemini rules the polarities of the body, like Taurus rules the throat, and of course Aries rules the head, which is Mars ruled. And then you have the shoulders and the 2 arms, which is ruled by Gemini. So Mars in Gemini could mean problems here: varicose veins, carpal tunnel syndrome, working excessively with the computer, stiff shoulders is something that can occur, boils and stuff like that, okay? So when we look at Mars rules Aries and Scorpio, and is in detriment in the 2 polarities. So this is Libra and Taurus, and of course is exalted in 28 of Capricorn, and is in fall in 28 of Cancer. So Mars is about how we take action in the world, okay? Soldiers fighting is very Martian. It's yang energy, masculine. Okay, and of course, if you understand that Mars has been symbolized by the phallus, and there is a greater meaning to this, which I'll get into later on. Mars deals with power, courage, violence, lies, deceit, screams, aggression, passion, lust. Okay, Mars is more, you look through your eyes, Mars rules the eyes, and you're attracted, and you feel that lust within you. That is Mars. Even red, the color red, it is lustful, but it also speaks of danger. Like, you see danger, it's red. So Mars has that dangerous component to it. Because when you look at Saturn and Mars, they don't work in moderation. Whereas the benefics, Jupiter and Venus, they work through moderation, which is why they are easier to harmonize in our life. Mars cuts and burns. So the energy of cutting and burning in the arms, in the shoulders, that can be felt, especially if this is a retrograde Mars and you have something like a Jupiter also. And this could also deal with the womb, of course, because Mars speaks of abortions. So, and Gemini being a mutable air is not very good with grounding. Okay, grounding. And Gemini deals with the siblings, neighbors. So there could be problems that can arise. Mars is the nemesis, remember. Competitive spirit, excessive competitive spirit with your siblings, or your neighborhood, or even accidents with your car. Because, Gemini rules your automobile or your vehicle that you travel in, okay? So a communication in all forms is Gemini, office work. So this can make you a very good organizer, or sort of like somebody who in the office gives the presentation, because Mars is a pioneer and Gemini is communication writer. Mars in Gemini can be an amazing writer because he has all this and this can be great with humor, because here Mars is channeling in Mercury the trickster. So there's this very humorous component to Mars in Gemini that can be expressed through writing or comedy. Comedy is again something that can really just come from this. Mars has a need to dominate. Gemini, mutable air, does not per se, and Mercury by itself does not have the need to dominate, because Mercury can be both malefic as well as benefic and travels very close to the sun. Now Mars is of course very, very connected to the sun as well, and he takes the very spirit of the spiritual sun and conveys and seeds humanity. That is why he's the phallus, okay? And Mars is everything sharp, everything fast. Venus is everything round. So when we really understand the Mars signs in opposition to the Venus signs, we can really grasp a lot of the meaning of the archetype of Mars just by contrast, okay? If we contrast the qualities of Mars and Venus, we get a clear understanding of Mars. Like Venus gives, but Mars takes. So in Gemini, it can be, taking your clarity, or taking your siblings away in a sense, okay? Or Mars is earthquakes, volcanoes, so it can be very disruptive. Gemini also rules the lungs. So Mars in Gemini, not good for smokers, because you affect your lungs and all the other carpal tunnel syndrome and all that. Mars rules the water triplicity, and of course Gemini 11 to 20, the second decan of Gemini, is ruled by Mars. And you always must understand that Pluto is a higher octave of Mars. So this very death and destruction component play through both these celestial bodies, right? Let's look at the anatomy of Mars so we understand a bit better. Gallbladder, left ear. Okay, any tertian fevers, migraines, jaundice, that yellow jaundice, plague sores, carbuncles, burnings of any kind. Okay, so I said lung burning with Mars over there. Distempers in the head. All wounds, diseases in men's genitalia, erectile dysfunction. Okay, hernia and prostrate problems and all of that. Okay. If you're struck by iron, that's ruled by Mars. Dryness, anything that is caused by excessive dryness, that is Pitta imbalance. And Gemini is also air, so it's very dry. So everything can dry out really quickly with this placement. So staying hydrated and nourished is a very, very good idea. Okay. So Mars now in Gemini, as I said, that a ton of strategists, although Gemini is not known for like long-term strategy like say Aquarius or Scorpio, but Gemini is very proficient with two sides of the story, represented by the two twins, or sometimes the higher self and the lower self. So this could also be a question of which self is pulling in this Martian energy. Because if you are looking at Mars through your ego self, then all you will see is destruction, burning, cutting, scathing, pain and torture. But once you realize that Mars is pure energy from our stellar source, from our sun, that is when you look at Mars with eyes of wisdom. And Mercury is actually not known, because Gemini ruled by Mercury is not really great about wisdom. Mercury is more of a data collector, okay, where it collects a ton of data and oftentimes there is no assimilation. So with Mars is not a planet that, you know, it sits around for you to assimilate things. It is very fast moving. So it pushes you on your path and it rolls, you know, it's like a juggernaut of energies that you cannot sit still with. Mars does not let you sit still. It is quick moving. Okay, so here this is something you've got to work with. It can be problematic. Like I said, of course, Mercury is a very dualistic planet. You can never quite know how it's operative, in the sense it's not male or female either. It's androgynous. Okay, it has the most erratic orbit around the sun. It goes so far beyond the ecliptic that many planets don't even go there. That's why Mercury is known as the psychopomp, that brings spirit from the messages from the world of spirit to the world of matter. So when Mars operates through mutable, airy Gemini, he takes on the role of the psychopomp. So a lot of messages could come through with this placement, of course, and one could know things about Gemini related things like communication, writing, blog writing, and you get all these ideas and you're like, okay, I just understand, I just know how to convey this, because Mercury conveys this information from the sun. Like Mars is a phallus symbol that seeds it, Mercury conveys all this information it gets because it is the closest to the sun. And Mercury is very erratic. So immediately you understand the archetype of Mars will be very erratic, the way, you know, it becomes the trickster sometimes. Okay, Mercury also rules thieves. So and Mars rules lies and deceit. So Mars here could be about lies and deceit and lying about maybe sexual things, because Mars rules the libido also, right? So essentially the air signs, you know, Mars or fire is more connected to the imaginal plane. But it is the work of air to bring it down to us, to communicate it down to us. And that is what Mars is trying to do through Gemini, to bring those messages down from the world of spirit. And Mercury also rules money nowadays, because, you know, money is no more gold or silver. It is zeros and ones on your computer. So money is also mercurial. So here we can have a Martian understanding or pioneering spirit that comes into the understanding of money and digital currency and how to make use of that and how to grow with that. Okay, because if you look at Mercury is not so much about intelligence, yet it is so, because Mercury is associated with the god Thoth. And Thoth is essentially about writing, speech. So Mars becomes Thoth here, you know, when Mars is in Gemini. Yes, this energy can be polarized, can be very conflicted, bipolar almost. But once you ground this, then you've got an immense storehouse of energy that seems to go on forever. So exercise is a must. And knowing how to work with this energy, the excessive dryness that can come of it. So like, comment, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think of these videos, because I make them with little or no help. So a donation would be very appreciated, because I put a lot of work and energy into these. Book a reading, and don't forget the thumbs up, subscription button, ping with the little bell by the side, so you know every time I upload a video. Thank you. Bye-bye.